turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, walking on the freedom land. Ain't gonna let injustice turn me around, turn me around. No, turn me around. Ain't gonna let injustice turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up the freedom land.
And good evening. Welcome to We Believe Digital Studios, Sizzling in Mississippi. We are so glad you're joining us tonight. My gosh, it seems like last Monday was a long time ago. Things are just happening around here.
Really are.
So much going on.
Yes.
Chris Young alongside Maati, Jone, Primm. This is what we do on Monday nights at 6:30. Bring you this show where we try to talk about things that are going on that keep Mississippi sizzling.
Yes.
Uncover things that a lot of times people don't want to talk about.
Right.
But tonight we've got a couple of, well, I guess, we got some kind of middle of the road topic about gun registry. I don't know if that's a sizzling topic, but we're going to talk about it. The garbage contract in Jackson has been a sizzling topic.
Yes, indeed.
We'll get into that, and also a really positive story about some happenings, an event last Friday night down in the historic Fair Street district that we're going to share with you tonight. So we're really glad that you're joining us. We did have a hot flash earlier. Something popped on my phone. You remember us talking about Jalen Walker last year, Akron, Ohio. So the grand jury refused to indict any of the 8 officers that were responsible for gunning down this 25-year-old man.
46 shots entered his body.
46 in the body, 94 shots were fired among these 8 officers. And what they really focused on in the article that I read was that he fired the first shot. And so then, therefore, they claimed that the officers has a reasonable concern, and this was all behind a taillight.
Right. It always is something just minuscule, insignificant.
The man had lost his fiancée shortly before that. The family said they know he was grieving that, but they truly couldn't speak about his frame of mind on that night. They did say that it was only a few months prior that he'd gotten a gun, shot at a gun for the first time at a range. So when things like this happen, Maati, I just, well, first of all, when's the last time that you heard of a white man with 46 pieces of lead in him behind a police department taillight shooting?
Right. Never.
You never heard of that?
No. I've seen tapes, right, online of white men with guns, and the police just talk him down. He's waving the gun at them. He's waving it in the air. He's waving it around in a park where children are playing. And they don't shoot him one time. Yeah. So I just don't understand. Akron, Ohio, they must have an X number of grand jurors. That I don't know. I remember with the Trump thing, it was 16. I think they said. So I guess that means that in the minds of those grand jurors. They were, well, it said in the article I read, which I'm sorry I can't remember, it's probably on every news station there is, but they said they were following their normal practices and protocols. When Black lives don't matter, yeah, absolutely.
That's what they're doing.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what they
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why black people keep saying Black Lives Matter. And when we say Black Lives Matter, we get criticized for it. But we are trying to remind America and the world that Black Lives Matter.
And the obvious discrepancy that goes on
Right.
in policing.
Right.
Tough stuff. I mean, where do you go? Where do you go with something like that? You know, it's like this situation with that we talked about extensively over in Taylorsville
Right.
a month ago. You know, again, a 20-something-year-old man, father of a 5 or 7-year-old. I don't have it on the sheet.
7-year-old girl.
And you know. But, you know, he goes to the police station for help. A black man goes to the police station for help because his mother told him to. He listened to his mother. He goes to the police station for help. They said, well, we don't see any white men chasing you in trucks. And a day or so later, that was the last time he was seen.
Right. And they wouldn't let him stay in the station. They ordered
No,
him
you
to
can't
leave.
hang out here.
Right.
And we can't give you a lift to the motel,
Right.
even though you're telling us you fear for your safety.
Right.
But we can't because we're not a taxi service.
And because black lives don't matter to them. You know, they're called police. I suppose they police someone, but to black people, they're terrorists.
It's hard to pair up protecting and serving when you find it necessary to put 46 pieces of lead in a human being that's unarmed.
Right.
Now, he had the gun before. He shot off a round. They certainly have tape of that. I don't know if they have any tape of the rest of the
Right.
You know, but they have tape of that.
Yeah, they
but
tend
the
to move
gun
the
was in the
cameras.
car, and
Okay.
he got out of the car and took off, probably afraid for his life.
Right, and then he jumped out of the car.
Yeah. Jumped out while I was still running, the report
Right.
said. But he did not have a gun when he was shot to death.
No.
So we don't know where do you go with stuff like this, and we're just trying to talk it through a little bit. Very interested to see what you have to say. Sadly, we don't have our laptop in front of us, so we can't see the chat comments. But our producer, the phenomenal Ariel G, is going to keep track and let us know what's going on in the chat. We do have a call-in line, 1-800-492-5186. And we'd be happy to hear from you at any time. So Jalen Walker, 25, Akron, Ohio.
Yeah. Yes. Once again.
In Mississippi, our governor, and you know, I've been doing some reading on this. I just don't know exactly what it means. I called a friend in Florida to talk about it, but this governor signed a HB 1110, which
right.
you brought to my attention earlier today.
Yeah.
I had remembered seeing a speck of it, but it didn't register in my brain. And this law blocks the creation of gun registries to track and efforts to track financial transactions related to the purchase of guns.
Right.
So
Basically, what it's saying is that Tate Reeves signed the House Bill 1110 on the eve of the National Rifle Association's National Convention, right?
yeah.
And it says that gun sellers cannot keep track records, register anything as far as the firearms that they sell to people. It's against the law, and the Attorney General of the state of Mississippi will come after you for it.
But what I am learning is now that doesn't usurp federal law. So where this gets dicey, where it gets dicey for me is that if you go to a gun shop or a gun show,
right?
You know, there's a federal law that they and you have to pay for the background check. And so they keep record on that. This is somehow different. And
we don't have background checks here.
You don't have background checks?
No.
They already did away with that.
Right. This is open carry, no permit required state.
I got to learn more about it. You know, the governor says his quote, like you said, in conjunction with the NRA convention over the weekend.
Yes.
The Second Amendment rights of Mississippians shall not be infringed. It's like a political ad.
Right.
My administration will continue to push back on national Democrats' unconstitutional gun grabs that threaten the safety and privacy of law-abiding gun owners. You know, as long as I'm governor, the Second Amendment is here to stay in Mississippi.
Right. Unlike California and New York.
Yeah,
we're proud to
libs.
welcome.
The libs.
Yeah, we're proud to welcome the firearms industry.
And I also pulled this from, I think it was Forbes. In 2022, the firearms industry had almost a $1.2 billion impact on the Mississippi economy. So that tells you, you know, it supported more than 4,800 jobs, paying over $284 million in wages in 2022, just last year.
Yeah.
But of course, 2022, just last year, was yet another year where Mississippi led the nation in murders in our capital city.
Yes, right. Yeah.
So is there some kind of a connection there, you know?
I mean, right, what is the impact that this new law will have? Just like the previous law that he did that allowed for open carry, no permit.
More wild, wild west is
Right.
the way my brain goes.
Exactly. And that's when Jackson became the highest, had the highest homicide rate.
Following that. Yeah.
And has continued to have. So now we have this in which it's going to make investigating homicides very difficult, because it will be hard to go back to the sellers of guns and trace that ownership back to find out who owns what and when.
Somehow Visa, the credit card company, got in on all this. And they said that they were against these registries. But remember, in the very beginning, I said, and efforts to track financial transactions related to purchase of guns. So apparently, they realized that you could be dealing with their money here and messing with their money, and they're not going to have that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's horrible.
And meanwhile, in the midst of this going on here in Mississippi, and I believe only studied it for a short amount of time, but it looks like Mississippi is only the 10th state in the country to have one of these bans. Florida has had it back since Jeb Bush was the governor down there, pardon me. And but while all this is going on, you know, just last month, President Joe Biden, who everybody wants to knock, signed an expansive executive order taking steps to expand background checks and gun safety measures as the U.S. continues to face mass shootings and incidents of gun violence without Congress taking comprehensive action. Remember, we told you that the House passed a gun safety, gun control measure earlier, but the Senate won't. What was it, in the fall or no? It was in January or February. But the Senate won't touch it.
Right.
They say they don't have the vote, so it's stalled. So what is the president that so many people want to knock? What does he do? He signs an executive order. He takes some type of action to do, even if it's crumbs, which I don't have it in front of me. I don't know how substantial it is, but it's not a law. It's an executive order.
Right.
But at least it's some attempt to do something to address what's going on in this country with guns.
Right. I mean, you're talking about, what is it, around 32 mass shootings in the month of April, this month. It's only the 18th.
Yeah.
It's incredible around the country, that many, over 30.
You know, I'll share with you, I called, no, actually, he called me, and it's not a normal thing to get a phone call from my older brother.
Yes.
And you know I love my older brother.
Yes.
He lives in Denver, Colorado. I think of him, we're very two different people.
Okay.
I view him as almost like a Grizzly Adams,
Yes.
Colorado mountain man, rugged individualism. And I asked him when I went out to visit him at the tail end of the year, the last 3 days of the year, I went out to visit him in Colorado, and he had just lost his wife not too long before that. And I just wanted to pay him a visit, and he was showing me some of his guns. And I asked him, I said, hey, how many guns you got anyway? And he said, about 75.
Whoa.
And I'm trying to, I'm like,
Wrap
what
your head
do
around
you
that.
do? I mean, they say that some of the data I looked at today, Maati, said that 36% of adults in Hematica own guns. And that the average amount owned per gun owner is 5 of them. He got 75.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. It's incredible.
And then I told you, I called my friend down in Florida. We used to serve in the Navy together for some period of years, and just a salt of the earth kind of guy, not on the same doesn't swing on the same pendulum that I do, politic wise. But he's a proud gun owner and all, and they're waiting for the because he's had a concealed carry permit in Florida since 1988. He told me tonight, just a few minutes ago, on the phone, and he's looking forward to open carry, where he'll be able to just strap. And I said, you mean like gun smoke? And he said, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And I don't understand. I think stuff like that leads to the likelihood that bad things are going to happen, not saving the day from bad things happening.
Right. The need to negotiate is lessened. The need to just stand down and let trouble pass on by. Yeah. Lessened.
And I saw something, I believe it was the Pew Research Center. I'm not quoting anything, but it had to do with the bystander interventions.
Okay.
And it was very, very low. In other words, people say, well, what's the phrase? There's a phrase that people say.
Yeah, it's the way to stop a bad guy is for a good guy to have a gun.
But yet the data doesn't bear that out.
No.
So people may have guns, but they don't necessarily utilize them at the time of crisis.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
They never have.
I know a lot of people down here in Mississippi, black and white, that they got guns in the car. Yeah. But I'm like, we're sitting in a restaurant right now. What
are you gonna do?
I don't.
Right. When most places of business have signs that say no guns allowed. Yeah. So everybody carries it in their car, and if something happens, you have to get to it.
My goal is not to put you on the spot.
Okay.
But I don't think we ever talked about this. Out of curiosity, would you say one way or another, are you a gun person, a gun owner?
I would reserve the right to say never mind.
Never mind. I am not. And I spent 20 years in the military, learned all kinds of stuff had to qualify on 3 different firearms, but I've never owned a firearm in my life. I know a little something about them, but remember my dad telling me after an incident that happened in our home where he had took out a gun, and then the next day he was embarrassed and he gave away his guns to a neighbor down the street. And I asked him why he did that. I think I was about 10 or 11. And he told me, big word, he told me not everyone has the temperament to own a gun. And I always tend to remember that.
Yes.
So I know my girlfriend, she has a gun, but she doesn't always carry it with her. She keeps a knife in the car, I think, but not a gun.
Okay.
different strokes, right?
Yeah, different strokes for different folks.
Well, we ran up against the end of our first segment. We're going to just drop out for a short amount of time for a couple commercials. We'll be right back with you.
Looking for the hottest content in the city of Jackson and surrounding areas? Check out WeBelieveDigital.com. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We Believe Digital Podcast is here for all your podcasting needs.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
And welcome back to Sizzling in Mississippi. Chris Young alongside Maati, Jone, Primm. We're so glad you're joining us. We want to provide you with a source of information and dialogue and really, this is not the kind of typical thing, the typical programming where you have a black woman alongside a white man talking about issues, talking about commonalities, trying to better understand where differences arise, things like that, and just care enough to dialogue with one another and share that with people. So we hope that you find that interesting. We hope somehow it can be a model for others. One day I'd like to see it on, on Sunday night on the TV. I don't know what your schedule is for Sunday nights,
okay.
But I'd like to see it on the TV sometime, like a PBS NewsHour kind of thing or a 60 Minutes kind of, because if we don't realize change in Mississippi, it's just generation after generation after generation of oppression that goes on down here. And, we talked last week about this guy, once again, declaring Confederate Heritage Month, and just if you take a half a second to look at the importance for people like that feel like that needs to be memorialized and highlighted in the month, one out of every 12 months. That needs to be on, a repeat cycle.
Yes.
And you look at those numbers of people, and you look at how important that is to them, or else he wouldn't be doing it. He's doing it for a reason.
Right.
Because there's an appetite for it.
Right.
But then you put that up against the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people that you are just traumatizing them again and again and again. It just shows no regard whatsoever for African Americans in this state, and this is not the only state. I mean, they do this in Alabama, they do
Virginia.
this in Tennessee, and there's maybe South Carolina or Georgia. I don't know. There's a short list, though. It's a short list, but it just the pain that you heap on people, and so we're looking for solutions. We're looking for solutions to bring about community, to reduce blatant racism, to help people, let the children lead us. They don't see this stuff. They go hug their new little friend on the playground. It doesn't cross their mind what color they are. But if we can't bring about change, and we seek your help. We hope that something can come out of some of the stuff that we do here, but we have got to, what we're doing is calling out stuff most of the time. We need to find a way to bridge these gaps and to help people that are just grossly wrong-headed, that do not follow any, despite calling themselves Christians.
Right.
See, no, right?
Right. Christian in name only.
And Jesus don't do this. Jesus don't care about the color of your skin. So anyway, I'll be quiet. That was. That's what we're trying. That's what we're trying to accomplish. We have to bring about change. Our grandchildren, Mississippi's grandchildren today. Can there be a chance for them to live in a different world, where a world of equity and fairness and people working together? And can't you just see how if that was to happen, all boats would be lifted and Mississippi wouldn't be last anymore? In fact, it'd be a model for brotherhood and harmony and working together.
Right.
Now, is that just off the chain, too liberal?
Well, no, I think it's really a question of when you're talking about Christians versus Christians in name only. And so if you have Christians in name only, then they are going to support maintaining the status quo, regardless of how it affects even them, even if it lessens their life and life opportunity and the opportunities of their children. They don't care. The most important thing is to maintain the status quo.
Maintain the power and the illusion of superiority.
Right.
And do whatever you can do to block any form of black advancement.
Right.
That's the status quo.
Right. And that's how everything goes around here. I mean, the garbage contract, the water, the streets, the crime, gun ownership.
Yeah. Strong points. Strong points. Let's talk about that garbage contract for a minute. We have talked about it on this show before. It's talked about on lots of other shows on this platform. Today was a big day, they had a hearing. The city council filed lawsuit in February, saying that February or March, saying that the mayor had not acted, and so they're not going to approve any extension with Richards that's been doing the job for a year. They're not going to go along with a declared state of a local emergency, even as trash piles up on the streets.
Right.
And so there was a hearing over in the Chancery Court. A retired pale judge who's logged 30 years as a Chancery Court judge, H. David Clark. He scolded the city for bringing the lawsuit. He said, "What are we doing here? The city can't sue the city. This is a travesty, and this is an example of failed leadership, and this is more an issue of that than it is a legal issue." But here's what happened, Maati. He listened to both sides present their case, if you will. And then he did the craziest thing. They recessed for a planned 15 minutes. That turned out to be 45 or 50 minutes.
Right.
And he came back and he said, "Look, there's legal factors involved here.
Right.
As the trash is piling up, there's legal factors involved here. There's factual matters that are involved here."
Right.
And then he said the magic word. He said there's practical matters here. So he said, we're going to recess till 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, contingent upon discussions that we're going to have all afternoon. So what this judge did was he shifted into the role of mediator.
Okay.
And by 3 o'clock, so we all left the courthouse at by 9:45, by 10 o'clock we were gone from the courthouse.
Okay.
But by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they announced a settlement. They announced an agreement. They're going to give Richards a 1-year emergency contract, special city council meeting tomorrow, and they're going to go ahead and codify the state of local emergency, and supposedly, unless something comes in to ham it up, they're going to go ahead and vote for the 1-year emergency contract with Richards, which will save the saved the city just over the 1 year, based on the numbers that were floated, 1.9 million. So I know you have a strong perspective on all this. What's your sense?
I was insulted.
To have the middle ground of a 1 year?
Well, that's insufficient. But also the way that the judge sat really in judgment. But he didn't just sit in judgment. It just I felt like I was back on the plantation listening to him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And he was the overseer with the lash and trying to decide who he's going to lay the lash down on.
Yes.
It was insulting. When he talked about dysfunctional leadership,
Over
the
and
lack
over. Yeah.
of leadership, he sounded like a Republican.
Yeah. Three different times he said dysfunction.
Yeah. And I mean, it was just insulting because, first of all, I've done business with other municipalities where I didn't get bogged down in this. A request for proposal is issued.
Yeah.
And then you had to be certified by this municipality in order to bid, and you bid, and whoever the lowest bidder is,
Yeah, gets it.
and you go on with your life. It's nothing more complicated than that.
So this whole scoring thing that they made an issue out of, that wouldn't fly in Cook County.
No, it wouldn't. No, with Chicago. No, it wouldn't.
Yeah.
It wouldn't fly.
Yeah.
And I then with the blind bids and then the people who opposed Richards actually being in favor of Richards when they didn't know it was Richards.
Right.
And all of this, and it's irritating. It was disrespectful to Richards because I know that when he came to Jackson, he didn't have a fleet of trucks.
Yeah.
And he obtained this fleet of trucks in order to honor this contract, which was for 6 years.
Yeah.
And to then at every point along the way to just harass and hinder his performance.
Well, they didn't pay him for 6 months, remember?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And he kept on, and then this contract ended, and his workers went out to the Metro Mall and took garbage out of people's vehicles so they didn't have to do it and dump it in these huge dumpsters. And they did that without charging the city anything, in just good faith and
And
good
he paid them to
attitude.
do it.
And he paid them to do it. And it's like, come on, people.
Yeah.
You know, and then he gets blamed, and I don't even see it because they've been terrific as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I haven't had a problem with Richards, and then the reason for the request for proposal came out anyway was because Waste Management was charging the city at higher rates, and it just became untenable to the mayor. And so that's when he issued the request for proposal. And who would have thought after all of this that this would occur? At the press conference last Monday, we heard from Ernest McBride, who said, how is it that you have 3 black Democrat council people who are standing with a white Republican? He didn't call him a Confederate, but
following the lead.
Yeah, following his lead against a Democratic mayor who's black.
Yeah, in a black city.
In a black city.
As the trash piles up.
Right, and whereas when Richards obtained the contract, who was complaining? The people weren't. We were just glad to get our garbage picked up.
And the judge, who you characterized earlier, you know, very early in the proceeding today, he turned around to the city council lead attorney and said, "This is just political. This is not legal.
Yeah.
This is not a legal matter, and
Right.
and the guy conceded. Yeah, it's politics.
Right. But see, one of the requirements on a bid is that if you, as a council person, object to the winner of the bid, you have to do it on a legal basis. So if you don't have a legal basis, why are you objecting to the contract?
Right.
Is my question.
Well, they had great those three councilmen had great reasons, like if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
But it was broken because it was too pricey.
Well, they didn't want to see that, so I wonder why they didn't. I wonder why they never talk about price. They talk about all these other ancillary, collateral type. Well, I heard I got a friend in New Orleans and said people don't like Richards, and
Subpar, and I'm like, that's really insulting. I haven't had that experience with them.
Yeah.
In fact, they pick up more of my garbage than Waste Management ever did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even still this afternoon, afterwards I was texting a couple of friends, and and it's split 50-50. There's some people that said, "Oh crap," because for whatever reason they just have in their mind that Waste Management was a better provider, and I always go back to Waste Management having had the contract for 35 years. Being a multinational corporation, profits in the billions every quarter,
right?
And what have they done for the city of Jackson in 35 years? What events do they host? What have they contributed? What building is their name on? No, none of that. It's just a grab and go,
right?
And so the mayor, our young black mayor, employs an old tried and true management method. Shake the tree. Find out what happens here.
Right.
Pardon me. I don't mean to spit.
Okay. No.
I got excited. I apologize. And so, but boy, oh boy, I guess he probably knew what he was up against, but maybe not.
I can't imagine anyone would think that you'd get this much pushback.
Yeah. And the other thing too, Maati, back in when was that? My goodness, back in September, October timeframe, when they went to court over not being paid for 6 months,
right?
They reached an agreement, and they started paying them.
Right.
They gave them half right off the bat, and then the rest would be folded into upcoming monthly payments. So you came to an agreement to pay them,
right?
But you don't want them,
right?
And you've gone out of your way to drag them down,
right?
Make things as tough as possible, staging area, pick up routes, all sorts of stuff,
right?
Get the FAA involved, and for what? For what? Because you agreed to pay him eventually. You had to be brought to court,
right?
But you eventually agreed to pay him. Yeah. So if you so strongly believed,
yes,
would you have done that?
No.
See what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Why would you pay him in the first place?
Why would you pay him in the first place?
Yeah. And then again, if after a year now, Richards does have a lawsuit that they filed against the city of Jackson, which I would encourage them to keep, because after a year, if Richards should lose this contract, that is going to be very problematic for them, because they based their business on being able to fulfill this contract for 6 years, not 2 years. And that has to provide a great financial burden on them. And really, because they're going to do this now under emergency conditions, they really could keep the lawsuit. I would. Yeah, I would. And that way, if Jackson decides on another provider and Richards wins, now here's the problem. Now Jackson's got to pay both providers.
Yeah, interesting circumstances. So I guess the newspaper article is going to say, lawsuit turns into 1-year emergency contract or something like that. It's an interesting series of events that happened today.
Yes, yes.
But what's coming out of City Hall right now is that as long as these guys stay true to their word, and I hope that's the case, because I don't know how much more egg they could take on their faces,
No.
But as long as they stay true to their word, trash will begin being picked up once again by Richards in earnest on Wednesday. So that's and that would be 18th, either the 18th or the 19th day.
Okay. Yes. Yes. This
right
problem. Yes.
I heard some. I don't know if it was Ross Adams or somebody saying that there's some neighborhoods in Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
You only get a second to guess which ones are paying security.
Yes.
To make sure people don't drop nothing in their neck of the woods.
Yeah. I think I can imagine what neighborhood that is.
You know this stuff like the back of your hand. You know, I'm still on I got a steep learning curve.
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So so we'll just see. So 2:30 tomorrow afternoon, special council meeting. They'll codify supposedly not only the emergency declaration, but then give a 1-year emergency contract to Richards, and we'll be sure to keep you apprised how that goes on. And I do want to just say too, because oftentimes the forgotten people in all this, in this case, besides the residents of Jackson, are those Richards workers.
Right.
You know, they say 80. The front lady at the office, the top lady at the office, told me they have 82 workers in Jackson. 80 of them reside in Jackson to commute.
Yes.
The top 2 commute.
Right.
And so, and Mr. Richards has kept them on now. So what are we talking about? Almost 2.5 weeks.
Yes.
He's continued to pay them.
Wow.
I talked to one guy, I think mentioned this last week, don't want to belabor it, but he pays $400 a week for a hotel. And he said on his very best week on the job, he made $1,000. Wow. So tough to, he's trying to set aside money to be able to make a down payment on a used car.
Yes.
So anyway, so we want to remember those Richards workers out there as almost looks like volunteer work, and so forth.
Yes.
So here we are at the end of our second segment, so we'll dip out, and then when we come back, I think we just got some downright good news to share.
Yes, let's do that.
And you'll be taking the lead on that, so please don't go anywhere. We'll be back shortly.
SocratesGarrettENT.com is a diversified firm specializing in recycled aggregates and crushed concrete. SocratesGarrettENT.com's recycled materials provide the construction industry with significant economic and environmental benefits by recycling clean concrete rubble into M.Dot grade rock materials. Recycled aggregates and crushed concrete can be applied to driveways, road construction, bank protection, parking lots, general bulk fills, and more. For more information, please call 601-896-0084 or visit us online at SocratesGarrettENT.com.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, keepers of the knowledge for people who speak the truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippiLink.com and click on Home Delivery.
Welcome back to Sizzling in Mississippi. We're so glad you're joining us. Wow, I just found out from the producer, my sister-in-law out in Irvine, California is watching the show. Great to have you, Nicole. And so many comments. We got some comments from the producer, people talking about, yes, the dysfunction that's been going on, and the whole rub with the, as you had pointed out, Maati, about the blind bidding process, which is not required by statute.
Right.
So he slipped that in there, knowing that the climate was such that, look, this can help keep the unrest to a minimum.
Sure.
And remember, they brought 4 proposals.
Okay.
He didn't have to do this either.
Right.
The mayor, he brought 4 proposals to the council. I was in the chamber watching it happen.
Okay.
And he asked them to help him with the decision making. And they reduced, not by anecdotal discussion, not by any votes, but they said, okay, how about if we took away this one time with a cart, or how about we took away this, whatever the two, I forget, you know what I mean? And he took that on board, and actually Mr. Banks, Councilman Aaron Banks, was heard to be said by these ears right here, we know you'll make the right decision, when it was narrowed down to 2. So he let them bring it from a choice of 4 down to 2. Then he selected the best based on price. Then the names were revealed, and then all hell broke loose.
Wow.
Craziness.
Yes.
So thank you very much for pointing that out on the chat, you guys. That really is the rub. Yeah. And Mr. Floyd got to be one of our most loyal listeners, not only to this show, but several shows on We Believe Digital. I wish we had T-shirts or coffee mugs for you, Mr. Floyd, because they say, or you say, you got a birthday coming up, so and that'll happen in 2 days before our next show. So we wish you a happy birthday. Yes. Thank you for following We Believe Digital. So glad you're part of the family here. So Maati.
Yes.
First Friday on Farish.
Yes.
How about it?
Oh, it was wonderful.
I mean, I think it's very fair to say that you are a walking, talking authority on the history of, I'm not trying to date you, but I mean, with your family members and connections and all, you go way, way back.
I do, but there's a lot of experts, and actually I kind of sit at their feet and get information. And
the elders.
Yes, sit at the feet of elders and just let them inform me.
So let's tell the people what went down.
Oh, it was wonderful. It's called First Fridays on Farish Street. So every first Friday of the month, there is a festival that occurs on Farish Street. And this past Friday, was the first event.
Kickoff.
That was the kickoff. It was supposed to kick off a week before, but the weather did not permit. So this time it did, and it was wonderful. There was live music, a lot of food and vendors, and just a good spirit to be had by all, really.
And I saw Rosalind Anderson down there with her cameraman.
Yes.
She had a very nice article on WLBT.
Yes.
It was so, I was there for about an hour and a half. Okay. I got there maybe just as the music was kicking off, maybe about 15 minutes before 6 o'clock. And I stayed for about an hour and a half. And you could just feel, I walked up and down like 2 different times for sure.
Yes.
Maybe a little more than that. Somebody said they had over 60 vendors.
Isn't that wonderful?
And your store, Marshall's Bookstore, open.
Yes.
And you had some business coming in.
We did, yes.
And for those that don't know, for people like in Irvine, California that may not know, Farish Street in Jackson, Mississippi was like the Black Wall Street back in the day.
Right.
You had people from other communities, other counties even, coming to Farish Street, bringing their wares, selling products and services. It was just a triumphant, joyous time for the Black community, and that was the bastion. That was the area. If you
for the whole entire state.
For the whole state.
Yes. Yes. And now, I want to give a shout out to Eric T. Collins of Herbal Blessings and Meals That Heal, because he is the one who conceived of all of this and organized it, put it together, along with Erica. I'm trying to think of Erica's last name. Forgive me, Erica, but Eric and Erica. And they did a tremendous job. It was really phenom is really what it was. It was a phenomenal event, and I'm so glad that they're committed to the uplift of Ferris Street. They just worked tirelessly on this, and they got it done, and it was just a beautiful time that was had by all. They cordoned off a couple of the streets from Oakley, I believe it was, or a little past Oakley, all the way up to Monument Street.
Right.
And we had food trucks and vendors, people out with booze, and then my store was open, Eric's store was open, and it was just really phenomenal to see that kind of peaceful, joyful experience. It was like the Fair Street of old.
I didn't see one. I didn't hear a harsh word.
No.
You just, as you're walking through the, what would you estimate? I want to say, and again, I wasn't there for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Maybe half of the whole. It was about 3 hours.
Right.
And I was there for a solid hour and a half.
Yeah, 4 hours actually.
4 hours.
Uh-huh.
So I was not there for the whole thing. But my sense, by the time I left, my guess would be no fewer than 300 people. What would you think?
Well, that's probably 300 at a time.
Yeah.
So, there were people that came in and came out, and more that then came, and especially after dark. And, I mean, it's had to be 1,000. Yeah.
Probably from start to finish.
Yeah.
And no harsh words, no arguments. Security was at both ends. They did pat downs.
Yes.
That was, I wasn't pleased with that.
But it's
on a very personal level.
Yeah.
But if you could get a gun that high up, I don't know. But anyway, as I was walking away, I was thinking, well, if that's what it takes, I'm willing to do that. If that's what it takes to make sure this stays safe.
Yes.
And no shoot 'em ups in this crazy shoot 'em up city.
Yeah.
But you could just feel the love and the camaraderie. You see the smiles on people's faces.
Right. Yeah. Everybody's waiting. Everybody's waiting for Fair Street to come back, because when Ferris Street comes back, it's going to provide an economic engine for the city and for the state. There was a time when buses used to come in from the Delta and from the north and from the Gulf Coast, from the south and the east and the west. And it would just be many people coming in to shop on Ferris Street on the weekends. And they said, at this time it was so crowded that you couldn't just walk down the sidewalk. You had to walk kind of sideways because there were so many people. And so to see this festival, and to see how it was reminiscent of that and that spirit, and having that many people on Ferris Street at one time, it was a wonderful event.
It's interesting. Maybe back a little bit towards the sizzling side. Mm-hmm. One of the chief elements of oppression is to starve a people of economic opportunity. So here you are telling this story about this thriving area, but then we know over time that the mass exodus, from integration, and then later, and all of a sudden the air gets sucked out of Jackson,
right,
and a lot out of the black community too,
right.
And so, but when we see our state leaders, the governor and all, now they'll call a special session of the legislature,
right,
which costs umpty scrunch money to do, because we have part-time legislators. So people coming in from these 82 counties, for a special session to give a white multi-million-dollar company $247 million worth of tax incentives. So that's what kind of we're up against. So, anybody that lives around the Jackson area or anybody that's visiting Jackson, find your way to Fair Street. Find your way to Marshall's Books. Find your way to Herbal Blessings. Find your way. I went to lunch last Friday with a very distinguished lunch guest that I have the privilege of knowing at Johnny T's Bistro. Amazing food.
Yes.
Even the salad was, just top notch. And you can see on the other side of you can see some movement in that building.
Right. And then up the street at the African Art Gallery on the corner of Farish and Monument Street.
Okay.
Phenomenal place.
And then across the street from the church, right, just up a half a block from you, there's something going on in there. You see workers, people going in and out of there. So a lot of times people say, well, we can't do anything. Well, no. We can do something. Yeah. We can take a drive down Fair Street. Yeah. We can bring our family down there. We can see what's there. We can see the old movie theater down there. I attend services of all places at Fair Street Baptist Church. I'm very, very comfortable doing that. A recovering Catholic, and so that's something that we can do. We can try to support this resurgence, this rejuvenation. We can try and give African Americans a chance to have an economic engine that will lift boats.
Right.
And that's what we're missing. I mean, our state. You see all the work being done on the highways and around the state capitol. Right. I go down there and copy down the names that I see on the side of the trucks. Yeah. These are all white companies doing the work. Right. You mean to tell me there's no black contractors? It's just oppression. Yes. It's like something like 2 to 3%.
I know.
Of the contracts statewide go to black contractors in Mississippi, the blackest state in America per capita.
Right.
Bizarre. And even our own, back to that city council.
Yes.
Back to that dysfunction. What's the percentage? What's the percentage? And the thing is, it's like 5 or 6% of the city contracts for businesses is going to black contractors.
Yeah, so there's something wrong with that.
It's grossly wrong. So you cut somebody off at the legs. There's no equality. There's no level playing field.
Right.
People aren't given an opportunity, and so maybe it's going to take Fair Street, and maybe it's going to take an extended contract with Richards or another black firm. Now that they see that Richards has been able to come in here and do this,
right?
Maybe they can put up a bid.
Right.
Maybe local people can put up local black contractors can put up a bid for a long-term trash contract and tie people's hands behind their back. Just make it so attractive that they got to do it.
Right.
Because Jackson has now seen that a black firm can come in here, pick up its trash, rocky as could be at the start, smooth as can be these last six or more months.
Oh, yes. And, part of the rockiness was actually due to the predecessor not giving the maps,
no turnover, maps. No professional courtesy.
No continuity. Yeah.
And the city, they had the contract so long that the city itself had stopped keeping up with the routes.
Right. They didn't know.
Yeah. Right. It was just a normal thing. Like this is Monday.
Right. That's what they do. So yeah.
So thank you again for the comments, people writing in on the chat. We're so glad to hear that. And if you have ideas that can help promote black business in our black city, let us know. I mean, who knows? Maybe We Believe Digital can find a way to work with you. Maybe we can arrange a podcast for you so you can get your ideas out there and take the credit for coming up with something, being an organizer, being an activist, doing something so that we have a higher degree of equality here, not only in Jackson, but across the whole state. And so our doors are wide open. You can always reach us at 1-800-492-5186, and we'll be happy to hear what you have to say or work with you. We just have to find a way to bring about change. It's so I have an article coming out in the Mississippi Link in a couple of days, and I refer to Mississippi as the incinerator of inequality. It's just, it's so sad. But I mean, and not that there isn't oppression in other places.
Right. We're not saying that.
Never saying that.
Right. We're not saying the rest of America is a utopia.
No.
No.
But this is the belly of the beast.
Right. We're saying the same thing that Queen Mother Ida B. Wells said over 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And she was telling black people to leave the South and move north. Not that it was perfect in the North, but that it was better than where they were.
And safer.
Yes, much safer than this.
Yeah, we don't have museums in Chicago, like they have in Birmingham and Montgomery.
Yes, right, with statues of dogs attacking children.
Yeah. And we remind the viewers.
Police dogs, by the way.
Right.
Yeah.
The ones that are trained to follow commands.
Yes. And who are on leashes, and on the other end of that dog leashes is the hand of a police officer.
That's right. And we do have, there was one advancement in, let's see, the year was 2017, was it? That the two museums came to fruition.
Yeah.
We do have a state-funded Mississippi Civil Rights Museum. State-funded. Now, that being said, the only way that could come to pass was to also add a museum of Mississippi history.
Right. And also not to put that museum on the campus of Tougaloo College as it was intended.
That was the goal.
Right.
Yeah, that was the goal, but that got quashed.
Right. And then you have these two museums who sit side by side like the two water fountains, back 60 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. White only, and at that time colored only. It's just, you go there and you're just like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, which way do I go? Well, I'm black, so let me go to the right, Unbelievable.
Well, I do know this. I'm expecting a visit from my younger brother. Mm-hmm. And on Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
And I hope they have the free sign up.
Okay.
Because I intend to drag him in there and show him a few things in the museum.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that museum.
There's a
lot to be desired.
I know.
Yeah.
You have your
Yes.
I definitely hear you.
I can't stay in there very long. Catch a case.
Yeah, but you finally went to it. That was the thing that you blew me away because you have such strong opinions about that.
Yes.
But you managed to set them aside to go over there and look.
Yeah.
Now I can't even remember what the now I can't even remember what the event was.
It was a free weekend, so I went.
So you went.
Right, and I should have dragged a friend of mine along with me. I'm going to make sure that he comes the next time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to, please come.
Well, I'm definitely going to bring my brother Tim over there, and maybe next time the West Coast Young family comes to visit, maybe all three members can come. My beautiful sister-in-law Nicole, and my championship, just a really top-notch nephew. Mm-hmm. And his name is Miles.
Okay.
And he's a really good egg.
Okay.
And he's recovering from a little injury right now, but I just know. See, older people know things that the younger people do not know.
Okay.
That when we walk through an injury,
yes.
When we get knocked down,
yes.
The next time we stand up better than we were before.
There you go.
And they don't really factor all that in.
Right.
So adversity isn't always the bad thing. But when you got your hand in a cast that's 3 times as big as your hand,
I know.
And you're at a tender age, it's tough.
It's a challenge.
Tough.
Yeah. But the Civil Rights Museum, oddly enough, begins in the captivity of African people. So
right.
I'm trying to figure out how in the world do they count all of this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want the whole story, the real story.
Yeah.
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 Well, that's it. That's all we have for you tonight, folks. We hope you enjoyed the show. A little bit of I don't know, somehow it feels like a little bit of a different show tonight, but thank you.
Victory.
A victory.
Yes,
yeah.
We're getting our garbage picked up.
There you go. Yeah. There you go.
They'll miss it till your well runs dry.
All of a sudden. All of a sudden.
Water, don't you?
And it's so funny, this friend of mine that I had lunch with Friday lived in Jackson his whole life, 80 years old. And he said to me, you know, something that hit me is we've always worried about other things in Jackson. We never, ever worried about the trash being picked up, and then poof, all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Well, we hope you enjoyed the show tonight. We hope you will come back and visit us. Click that notification button. Click the likes, and please share with your friends. We're really, of course, trying to increase the viewership so that we can get the word out and marshal some support and try and do something good. Take some positive action to help turn down the volume on how Mississippi sizzles each and every day. So I hope you join us in that. Thank you so much, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next Monday night at 6:30 Central. Take care of each other out there. Stay safe.
Turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, walking on the freedom land. Ain't gonna let injustice turn me around, turn me around. No, turn me around. Ain't gonna let injustice turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let discrimination turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Gonna let discrimination turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let no hatred turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no hatred turn me around. Gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom.
Looking for the hottest content in the city of Jackson and surrounding areas? Check out WeBelieveDigital.com. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We believe